My wife said I was too old for love, so I left and found someone who made me feel young again. I still remember that night, the flickering candles, the soft jazz playing from the speaker, and the smell of roses filling our dining room. I'd spent hours trying to recreate the magic from our first anniversary. Maybe I was chasing something that had already left us. Still, I wanted to try. When the door opened, she stepped in, heels clicking against the floor. "What's all this?" she asked, setting her purse down. "Our anniversary," I said, smiling nervously. "I thought, maybe we could have dinner here. Just us." She glanced at the table, the candles, the wine, the flowers, and then looked at me with that half-smile she used to wear when she was amused. "You actually did all this?" "Yeah," I said. "I wanted tonight to feel special again." Her laugh came sharp, unexpected. "You're too old for this romantic nonsense, you know that?" The sound hit harder than I expected. I tried to laugh it off, but it stayed lodged somewhere in my chest. "Too old? It's just dinner." She picked up her phone, scrolling as she spoke. "It's cute, really. Just, unnecessary. We're not in our 20s anymore." I stared at her face illuminated by the phone's glow. "So romance has an age limit now?" She sighed. "No, but come on, Ollie. We've been married 12 years. I'm tired, you're tired. Can't we just eat like normal people without pretending it's a movie scene?" I sat down across from her, the candles between us flickering as if unsure whose side they were on. I wasn't pretending. I just wanted to remind us why we fell in love. She looked up, frowning. "You always do this, you make everything heavy." "It's dinner, not therapy." "I'm just trying to talk," I said softly. "You don't even look at me anymore." She rolled her eyes. "Because you always want to talk. About feelings, about the past, about what's missing. Sometimes I just want quiet." The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was the kind that filled every corner until it hummed in your ears. "Finally," she said, "you could have just ordered takeout." I was starving after work. I smiled weakly. "So the candles were a bad idea?" "The candles are fine," she said, waving her fork. "It's the effort. It's too much." Her words stung. "Too much effort to love you?" She froze, then laughed again. "See? You twist everything." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." She set her fork down. "Why are you like this lately? Always dramatic." "Because I miss us," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "I miss when you used to smile at me like I mattered." She looked away. "You're making me feel guilty for growing up." "Growing up?" I repeated. "Or growing apart?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for her glass of wine and stared into it. I could almost see her reflection in the deep red, distant, unreachable. I leaned forward. "Do you ever think about how it used to be? The late-night drives? The way you used to hold my hand?" She smirked. "We were kids, Ollie. People change." "Yeah," I whispered, "they do." The room felt smaller then. The candles flickered again, one of them finally giving up and going out. I watched the smoke rise like a sigh. She stood up abruptly. "I'm going to shower. Don't wait for me." As she walked away, I called out, "Aisha?" She stopped but didn't turn around. "I did all this because I still believe in us." Her voice came quiet, but sharp as glass. "Maybe that's your problem." When the bedroom door closed, I sat there, listening to the sound of running water. My hands shook slightly as I poured myself another glass of wine. The roses I'd bought that morning suddenly looked foolish, like props from a play that had lost its meaning. I picked up one of the petals that had fallen onto the table. It felt soft, fragile, already dying. I whispered to the empty room, "Too old for love, huh?" The words hung there like a cruel echo. Later that night, I washed the dishes alone. The candle wax had melted unevenly, one side hardened, the other dripping off the table's edge. I stared at it, realizing that maybe that was us, one still holding on, the other already slipping away. When she came out of the room, towel around her hair, she said, "You're still up?" Yeah, I said. Couldn't sleep. Don't overthink it, she murmured, brushing past me. It was just dinner. But it wasn't. I wanted to tell her how every word tonight carved a mark inside me. How her laughter didn't just embarrass me, it reminded me how far I'd fallen from the man she used to see. But I stayed silent. When she turned off the lights, the room went dark except for the faint glow from outside. In that moment, I realized love doesn't end with shouting. It ends quietly, between unfinished sentences, half-smiles, and cold dinners. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, her back turned to me. That night, the candles died out long before I did. The next few weeks felt like living with a stranger who wore my wife's face. She started coming home later than usual. Work's crazy, she'd say, dropping her bag by the couch, her tone flat. I'd ask, you've been working till 10 every night? Deadlines, Ollie. You wouldn't understand. It's different in the corporate world. I nodded, pretending I did. But I couldn't ignore the faint scent that clung to her clothes, something floral, expensive, not hers. New perfume? I asked once. She glanced down. A coworker gifted it. Why? No reason. Just, different. Don't start again, she warned, grabbing her phone from the table. You always turn things into drama. I wanted to say I wasn't trying to. But lately, everything I said felt like walking through glass. At dinner, we barely spoke. She scrolled through her phone, the blue light painting her face cold. I tried breaking the silence. You used to play music while cooking. Remember? She shrugged. I grew out of that phase. Yet when I walked past her car one morning, I heard her stereo blasting unfamiliar songs, soft male vocals, love lyrics that weren't ours. That night I asked, who's the singer on your playlist? She didn't look up. Just someone from work recommended it. Is that the same someone who gifted you perfume? She exhaled sharply. You really need to stop overthinking. It's exhausting. The way she said exhausting made me feel like loving her had become a burden. Later, I called Miller. She's different, I said. Colder. Distant. He was quiet for a moment. Ollie, maybe you're trying too hard. Let things breathe. Breathe? I laughed bitterly. I feel like I'm suffocating. Look, man, he said softly, you can't force someone to notice you. If she wants distance, give her some. After we hung up, I sat staring at my reflection in the window, just a tired man holding onto something already slipping away. That night, when she got home past 11, I asked, do you ever miss us? She froze near the doorway. Why would you ask that? Because it feels like you don't. She sighed, setting her heels aside. Ollie, not everything's about feelings. Some days, I just want peace. Peace? I echoed. Or escape. Her eyes narrowed. You're accusing me of something again? I'm just asking questions you won't answer. God, you've turned paranoid, she muttered. Do you even hear yourself? I hear what you don't say, I replied quietly. She laughed once, cold, sharp. You're unbelievable. Then she walked into the bedroom, leaving her perfume trailing behind like a goodbye. After she fell asleep, I sat at the dining table with an old notebook. I hadn't written in years, but that night, words poured out. She comes home late. She smells different. She looks at me like a chore she has to complete. I closed the notebook, staring at my handwriting like it belonged to someone else. The next morning, I tried again. Want breakfast together? Can't. Early meeting, she said, brushing past me. I looked at her phone lying face down on the counter. The screen lit up for a second, Taylor briefcase. My stomach tightened. Who's Taylor? I asked, voice steady. She grabbed her phone. A coworker. Why are you checking my notifications? I wasn't. It just lit up. Right, she scoffed. You've really lost it. I'm asking because you're hiding things. I'm working, Ollie. Her voice cracked, frustrated. You wouldn't get it. Then help me understand. She paused, eyes darting away. You wouldn't understand even if I tried. Something in that sentence broke me. I spent that evening walking aimlessly around the neighborhood. The air felt heavy, like it carried everything we never said. When I came back, she was asleep on the couch, phone in hand, still smiling faintly at whatever she'd been reading before dozing off. I wanted to wake her, to ask who or what made her smile that way, but instead, I whispered, "I miss you," to the dark room. The next day, Miller stopped by. "You look wrecked," he said, handing me coffee. "I don't know what's real anymore," I admitted. "Maybe it doesn't matter," he said gently. "You've done your part. Stop chasing what doesn't want to be caught." I laughed quietly. "You make it sound easy. It's not. But trying harder won't fix someone who's already checked out." His words lingered even after he left. That night, when she came home, I didn't ask where she'd been. I just watched her move through the house like a guest who'd lost interest in staying. "You're quiet," she said finally. "I'm learning," I replied. "To do what?" "To stop begging for attention." She blinked, uncertain. "You're being dramatic again." "Maybe," I said, smiling faintly. "But at least I still feel something." She looked like she wanted to say something else, but instead, she walked away. When the door closed behind her, I opened my notebook again. The silence isn't peaceful anymore. It's punishment. I talk to her, and she hears noise. She talks to me, and I hear distance. I stopped writing, staring at the last sentence until the ink blurred. Somewhere between her excuses and my hope, love had turned into routine, silent meals, empty rooms, and perfume that didn't belong to me. For the first time, I didn't cry. I just sat there, waiting for nothing. I still remember the first time she mentioned Taylor. We were sitting at breakfast, her scrolling through her phone, me sipping coffee that had gone cold. "He's just helping with a project," she said casually, not even looking up. "Taylor?" I asked, pretending to sound curious, not suspicious. She nodded. "Yeah, he's new at the office. Smart guy, very dedicated." I forced a smile. "Good for you. Must be nice to have someone motivated around." She laughed lightly. "Don't be jealous, old man. It's just work." Old man. The words stung, though she said them playfully. I laughed along, but something in me shifted that morning. Later that week, she started going to the gym. "It helps with stress," she told me, tying her hair in a ponytail I hadn't seen in years. "Since when do you like working out?" I asked. "Since I realized I've been neglecting myself," she said, slipping on sleek leggings and a tight top. I wanted to say something about how I'd been trying to fix us, not her reflection. But I stayed quiet. I didn't want to sound insecure. When she came back that night, her phone buzzed nonstop. "Who's texting you?" I asked gently. She frowned. "Why do you always ask that?" "It's just office stuff." "Office stuff at midnight?" She rolled her eyes. "Clients don't care about the clock." I let it go again. I always did. The next few days were a blur of distance. She smelled different, new perfume, something floral and expensive. "Smells nice," I said one evening. She smiled faintly. "Taylor recommended it. Said it suits confident women." My heart twisted, but I didn't show it. "He seems to know a lot about you." "Don't start," she snapped. "He's just being kind." I tried to joke. "Kind or curious?" She glared at me. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I mumbled. "Forget it." She grabbed her bag and stormed off to the balcony, muttering something about how I was suffocating her. That night, I stared at our wedding picture, the one where her eyes glowed brighter than any light in the room. I traced her smile with my finger and wondered where it went. The next morning, she left early. "Meeting," she said, barely making eye contact. "Breakfast?" I offered. "Not hungry." I watched her car disappear, then checked my phone. Her status read, "Gym time with my favorite trainer flexed biceps." My stomach clenched. When she returned that night, I tried to talk again. "Can we have dinner together?" Just us? Not tonight, she sighed. I'm exhausted. From work? She hesitated. Yes. From everything. Everything including me? Please, don't make this dramatic. I'm not. I miss us. She looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, maybe you miss who I used to be. I couldn't respond. Days turned into silence. We'd pass each other like ghosts sharing a house, exchanging polite phrases that felt scripted. Then came that night. I had called her to ask when she'd be home. It was past 11. She didn't answer the first 2 times. On the third, she picked up. Hey, I said, trying to sound calm. Her voice was low, breathless. I can't talk right now. Where are you? Out. With the team. Team? I repeated. Yes, work dinner. Don't wait up. There was a muffled voice in the background, a man's laugh, deep and confident. Then her whisper, soft but clear enough to pierce me. I miss you too. Silence. I froze, phone pressed to my ear, heart pounding like a drum. What did you just say? I asked, voice shaking. What? She replied quickly, her tone suddenly cold. You said, I miss you too. Who was that for? You're imagining things. You always twist my words, she snapped. Don't lie to me, I pleaded. Just tell me the truth. You need to stop being paranoid, she said sharply. This obsession of yours is exhausting. Obsession? You called someone else, I miss you too. It was a friend, okay? God, you're unbelievable. Taylor? Enough, stop it, she shouted and hung up. I sat there, staring at the dark screen, feeling something inside me collapse. My hands trembled. My reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger, tired eyes, a fading man holding on to love that was already gone. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Instead, I opened my journal. Maybe she's right, I wrote. Maybe I'm paranoid. But why does my heart feel like it knows the truth? I reread my words until tears blurred the ink. Every page since then became my confessional, a place where I could admit what I couldn't say aloud. Because deep down, I already knew. The woman I loved was slipping away. And I was too afraid to stop her. Miller's words echoed in my head that evening. Bro, if your gut's screaming, it's probably right, he said over the phone. She said it's a team dinner, I replied, pacing the living room. She even showed me the invite last week. He sighed. Then why are you calling me at 9, staring at the clock like it owes you answers? I rubbed my face. Because she's been distant. And because I can't shake this feeling. Then stop sitting in it. Go see for yourself. I hesitated. You want me to spy on my wife? I want you to stop dying in doubt, he said softly. Sometimes truth hurts less than wondering. The silence stretched between us. I finally grabbed my keys. All right, I whispered. If I'm wrong, I'll feel like a fool. But if I'm right, then you'll finally know what you're fighting. I drove through the night, headlights slicing the darkness. My heart thudded like it was trying to escape my chest. Every red light felt like a warning, turn back, don't look, stay blind. But I couldn't. Her location was easy to guess, the fancy restaurant she'd mentioned in passing. The parking lot was packed with shiny cars and louder laughter. I spotted her sedan instantly. My palms were sweating when I stepped out. I almost hoped she wouldn't be there, that maybe she'd actually gone somewhere else. But when I walked toward the glass windows, my world stopped. She sat there, my wife, across from Taylor. Her hair was loose, glowing under the warm lights. She was laughing, really laughing, the way she used to with me. Her hand brushed his across the table. I froze. My throat closed. Every muscle in my body screamed to storm in, yet my legs felt like lead. I just stood there, watching through the glass as if it were a movie and I was the ghost of a man who once mattered. Miller called. I didn't even say hello. Did you find her? He asked. She's with him, I said, voice barely holding together. John. She's laughing. God, she's laughing. He was silent. I should have listened to every sign, I continued. The perfume, the gym, the late nights, all of it. I just didn't want to believe. Do what you need to do, man, he said finally. But don't let her see you break. I ended the call. My reflection in the restaurant window looked older, smaller, defeated. Still, I walked in. The noise hit me first, soft music, glasses clinking, laughter. Then her eyes met mine. Her smile vanished. John, she whispered. Taylor turned, surprised. Oh, hey, I didn't realize. Of course you didn't, I cut in. Why would you? She probably told you I was too old for surprises. Don't do this here, she said quickly, standing up. Why not? You seem comfortable enough doing everything else here. Her lips trembled. You're embarrassing yourself. I laughed bitterly. No, you embarrassed us the moment you held his hand. John, it's not what you think. Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what I feared. Taylor raised his hands. Look, man, I think it's better if. Sit down, I snapped. You've already taken enough. Let me at least have my words. He sank back into his chair, awkwardly silent. I turned to her. You said it was a team dinner. You looked me in the eye and lied. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Find out what? I demanded. That the woman I loved got bored of me? She wiped her tears. You stopped making me feel alive. Those words hit harder than any betrayal. I stared at her, trying to process it. Alive? I whispered. You think cheating is life? It's not about cheating, she said, voice cracking. It's about feeling seen. You used to look at me like I was your world. Lately, you look through me. Because you stopped being there. I shouted. You shut me out, night after night. I tried, she said quietly. But you were always tired, always distant. I needed warmth. I found it where I could. I stepped closer, trembling. You found it in him? She looked away. My vision blurred. You could have talked to me. You could have asked me to fight for you. I was tired of fighting, she whispered. You stopped trying years ago. I laughed again, hollow. You mean I stopped being young enough to excite you? Don't twist this, she said, voice breaking. It's not about age. Then what is it about? That he's new? That he makes you feel special while I make you feel married? Her silence answered everything. I turned to leave, but my legs buckled. I didn't even realize I was crying until I saw the drops hit my shirt. John, she called softly. I stopped, but didn't look back. You said I stopped making you feel alive, I whispered. But tonight, you killed something in me that may never breathe again. When I stepped outside, the air felt heavy, the night too quiet. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, trying to catch my breath. Her laughter from inside echoed in my mind like a cruel melody. The woman who once called me her forever now shared that same laugh with someone else. I didn't start the car right away. I just sat there, staring at nothing, feeling everything. And for the first time, I realized, love doesn't always end with hate. Sometimes, it just dies quietly, in a crowded restaurant, under warm lights, while your heart watches from the outside. The car had become my bedroom, my confession booth, my punishment. I stared at the ceiling, counting the faint glow of streetlights through the windshield. My phone buzzed again, her name lighting up the screen like a wound that refused to close. Are you really not coming home? Her text read. I typed, home stopped feeling like home the night I saw you with him, then deleted it. Instead, I wrote, I need time. Her reply came fast. Time? You've been distant for years, John. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. The hypocrisy burned. A knock startled me. I rolled the window down to see Miller holding 2 coffees. You look like hell, he said, handing one over. Thanks, I muttered. Didn't realize I was this easy to find. Your car's parked outside the same park you used to bring her to. Subtle, bro. I gave a humorless laugh. Guess I'm a masochist. He leaned against the car. You gonna talk about it? What's there to say? She cheated. Lied. And somehow, I still miss her. That's normal, he said. You're grieving a ghost. I stared ahead. You think I was that bad of a husband? Miller sighed. You loved hard, but you stopped showing it. She probably wanted fire, not peace. I gave her everything, I said, voice breaking. I worked late so she could have her comforts. I planned anniversaries she barely noticed. I held on even when I felt invisible. He looked at me quietly. Sometimes, that kind of love makes you disappear. His words hit deep. I took a shaky breath. She said I made her lonely first. That's manipulation, bro, don't let her twist it. I leaned my head against the seat. She texted me last night. Said she was sorry, then said I pushed her to it. Miller frowned. That's not an apology. That's control. My phone buzzed again. Another message. You never listened when I needed you. You only listened when it was convenient. I clenched my jaw. See? Even now, she blames me. Because admitting guilt would mean losing control, Miller said. Don't take her words as truth. She's just trying to make her betrayal sound mutual. I nodded slowly, staring at the phone. I keep replaying our honeymoon in my head, I whispered. How she'd fall asleep on my shoulder, saying she couldn't believe she got lucky. How she promised forever. People mean it when they say it, he replied. They just change later. I closed my eyes. She used to make me feel like the world revolved around us. Now, I feel like an extra in her new story. Miller placed a hand on my shoulder. You've got to stop defining yourself through her. I don't know how, I admitted. For years, every plan, every meal, every morning, it was her. Without her, I don't even know who I am. He exhaled. Then maybe this pain's trying to show you exactly that, who you are without her. I laughed bitterly. So, what, I'm supposed to thank her for destroying me? No, he said softly. You thank yourself for surviving it. Silence hung between us, thick and heavy. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. My phone buzzed again. Another text. I didn't want to hurt you, but you stopped making me feel wanted. I typed back, you stopped making me feel respected. Then I stared at it for a long minute before deleting it. What was the point? Don't answer, Miller warned. Every reply keeps you in her orbit. He was right. I powered off my phone. The sudden silence felt almost holy. I looked out at the dark sky. Do you think love can rot? I asked quietly. Miller took a sip of coffee. Only when one person stops watering it. She said love was supposed to feel exciting, I murmured. Yeah, he said. But she forgot excitement fades. Real love is what you build after that. I swallowed hard. Then maybe she never wanted love, just the thrill of being wanted. Exactly, he said. Her love was conditional, tied to how alive she felt. The moment real life began, she checked out. I nodded slowly. She used to say, "You're my peace." I didn't realize peace bored her. Miller smiled sadly. That's not on you. Some people crave chaos because it distracts them from themselves. His words settled over me like truth I'd been too blind to see. I rubbed my eyes. You think I'll ever stop loving her? He shrugged. You might never stop. But one day, it won't hurt. I leaned back, exhaling. It's strange. Even after everything, part of me still hopes she'll say, "Come home." And what if she does? I looked at him. Then maybe I'll finally say, no. Miller smiled faintly. That's the start of healing, my friend. I watched the horizon lightening faintly, dawn creeping through the trees. It hit me that I'd spent the whole night awake, chasing peace that never came. The storm inside me hadn't passed, but it had quieted, just enough for me to hear my own breath again. Maybe this was what starting over felt like. Not clean or certain, just surviving the night, one truth at a time. The mornings felt different now, quieter, lighter somehow. No clattering plates, no tense silence. Just me, my tea, and the slow hum of a city that didn't care about my heartbreak. I started running again. Not far, just down the block and back. The first day, my lungs burned. The second day, it hurt less. By the fifth, I could breathe again. One morning, after my run, I stopped by a small bookstore near the park. I hadn't been inside before. The bell above the door jingled, and a soft voice said, "Careful, the floor's slippery, I just mopped." I looked up and met her eyes. "Sarah." "Noted," I said, smiling faintly. She smiled back. "You don't look like the reading type at 7 a.m. "Maybe I'm trying to change that," I said. "Or maybe you're hiding from something." Her tone was teasing, not prying. I chuckled. "You're pretty good at reading people for someone who sells books." "It's part of the job," she said, arranging a stack of novels. "So, what are you hiding from?" "Memories," I said before I could stop myself. She nodded thoughtfully. "Then you're in the right place. Stories help, they make you realize everyone's a little broken." Her words stayed with me long after I left. The next morning, I went back, partly for coffee, partly for her. "You again," she said, smiling. "Either you love books or you're lost. Can't it be both?" I replied. She laughed, a genuine, warm sound. My chest tightened, not with pain this time, but something new. Over the next few weeks, our conversations became routine. She'd ask, "How's your morning run?" and I'd answer, "Less painful, more bearable." Sometimes she'd hand me a random book and say, "This one's about forgiveness, might help." One afternoon, as we sat by the counter, she asked quietly, "You talk like someone who's learning to breathe again." I stared at the steam rising from my cup. I guess I forgot how for a while. She tilted her head. "Bad breakup?" "Bad marriage," I said softly. She didn't flinch. "Then maybe it's time you stop calling it bad and just call it over." That line, simple, gentle, hit harder than anything my therapist had said in weeks. "I still think about her," I admitted. "But it doesn't burn anymore. It's quiet now." "That's progress," she said. "Pain fading into silence means you're healing." I smiled weakly. "Do you ever heal completely?" She shrugged. "Maybe not. But you learn to live beautifully with the cracks." I looked at her, the calm way she spoke, the kindness in her eyes, and realized how different she was from my ex. No sharp edges, no mockery when I was vulnerable. Just calm honesty. When I told Miller about her later, he laughed. "A bookstore girl, huh? Fitting. You always did love sad endings and hopeful beginnings." "She's not a replacement," I said. He nodded. "Didn't say she was. Just don't close the door before you even see what's behind it." That night, I sat by my window, the cool air brushing against my skin. My phone sat silent, no more late-night apologies, no more guilt messages. Just peace. I thought about my wife, her laughter, her betrayal, her final words, "You stopped making me feel alive." Maybe she was right in her own way. Maybe love that needs constant fireworks isn't love, it's addiction. I sipped my tea and whispered to the night, "I hope you find what you're chasing." Then I smiled, a small, honest smile that felt like freedom. I didn't know what Sarah and I would become. Maybe friends. Maybe something more. But for the first time in years, I wasn't looking backward. The pain hadn't vanished, but it no longer owned me. I was learning to live again, one run, one book, one quiet morning at a time. The message came on a quiet Sunday morning. Just a single line, "Can we talk?" From a number I hadn't seen in almost a year. My chest tightened. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering above the keyboard, wondering if time really had healed me or if I was just pretending. When I finally replied with a simple, "Sure," my hands were shaking. By the time she arrived at the cafe, I'd already ordered black coffee, the same drink she used to tease me about. "You like bitterness too much, you know that," she'd once said. And now, as she walked in, she looked like someone who'd swallowed too much of it herself. "Hi," she whispered, sliding into the seat across from me. "Hey," I said. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. She looked thinner, tired, her eyes held a kind of emptiness that wasn't there before. "You look good," she said softly. "Thanks." "You too," I lied. She gave a small laugh. "Don't. I look like hell." "You said it, not me," I replied, half smiling. For a moment, we just sat there, the silence stretching like a wound that never fully healed. Then she exhaled. "Taylor left me." I nodded slowly. "I heard." "Of course you did," she muttered, staring down at her cup. "Small world." I didn't say anything. She looked up again, her eyes glistening. "He cheated. With a girl from his office. Younger, prettier. Funny how life comes full circle, huh?" I leaned back, feeling the irony hit me, but I didn't gloat. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. She let out a shaky breath. "You're sorry? After what I did to you?" "I'm not sorry for you," I said. "I'm sorry it still hurts." She looked at me, searching for something in my face, anger, resentment, maybe even love. But I had none left to give. "I thought I'd be happy," she whispered. "I thought leaving you meant finding something exciting again. But it was just noise. Everything was loud, shallow, temporary. Her voice cracked. You were home. I didn't realize until it was gone." I stared at the table. Her words used to slice me open. Now they just landed softly, like rain that had already soaked the earth. "I blamed you for everything," she said. "For getting old, for being tired, for loving me quietly instead of loudly. But the truth is, you were never the problem. I was." I swallowed hard. The air between us thickened, heavy with ghosts of our marriage. She reached across the table, fingers trembling. "Do you hate me?" I met her gaze. "No," I said simply. "I did. For a long time. But hate fades when you stop needing someone to love you back." Her lip trembled. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "It's not about deserving," I replied. "It's about peace." She wiped a tear quickly, trying to hide it. "Do you ever think about us?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "Mostly when I hear an old song, or pass by that park where we used to walk. But it doesn't hurt like it used to." "I still remember those mornings," she said softly. "You'd make tea, and I'd complain it was too strong. I'd give anything for that again." "You wouldn't," I said. "Not really. You miss the idea of what we were, not the truth of it." She looked away. "Maybe." A few seconds passed before she asked, almost in a whisper, "Did you ever love someone after me?" That question hit harder than I expected. I thought of Sarah, her laugh, her patience, her quiet strength. The way she listened without judgment, the way she made silence feel warm instead of cold. "Yes," I said finally. Her eyes widened a little. "You did?" "Yes," I repeated, smiling faintly. "But differently." "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means I learned that love doesn't always have to burn," I said. "Sometimes it can just glow." She nodded slowly, blinking back tears. "I'm glad you found that." "So am I." The waiter came to clear our cups. She gathered her purse, hesitating. "Would you ever consider?" "No," I interrupted gently. "Some things aren't meant to be rebuilt. They're meant to be remembered." She nodded, her shoulders sagging. "I guess I deserve that." "It's not punishment," I said. "It's closure." As she stood to leave, she looked at me one last time. "You really do look younger," she said quietly. "Maybe that's because I stopped carrying what wasn't mine anymore," I replied. She gave a sad smile. "Goodbye, then." "Goodbye," I said. When she walked away, I didn't watch her go. I just stared out the window, the morning light spilling over the street. For the first time, I didn't feel the weight of her absence. I felt gratitude, for surviving, for growing, for learning that sometimes, love's greatest gift is knowing when to let go. I took one last sip of my cold coffee, smiled to myself, and whispered, "Peace, at last." "Morning," Sarah said as she placed 2 steaming mugs on the table. "Morning," I replied, watching the sunlight spill through her bookstore window. The air smelled like coffee and paper, the scent of peace. She smiled. "You're early again." "I like the quiet before customers show up," I said. "Feels like the world hasn't started rushing yet." Sarah sat across from me, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Or maybe you just like hiding in my shop." "Maybe," I admitted. "You make hiding feel less like running." She laughed softly. "You always say things like that, half sad, half poetic." "It's probably just age," I said, sipping my tea. "Makes you sound deep when you're really just tired." She grinned. "You don't seem tired anymore." I looked at her for a moment. "That's because you make life feel light again." She tilted her head. "You used to carry something heavy, didn't you?" "I did," I said quietly. "But I stopped pretending it was mine to hold." She didn't push. She never did. That's what I liked about her. She didn't demand stories, she earned them through patience. After a pause, she said, "You know, most people think love fades with age. I think it just changes color." I smiled. "Maybe it gets softer." "Exactly," she said. "Like watercolor instead of neon lights." Her words lingered in the air. I found myself nodding slowly. When I was married, everything had to be loud, big gestures, bigger arguments. It felt like if it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't real. "And now?" she asked. "Now I know the quiet moments matter more. The small ones, like this." She looked down, smiling. "You're getting good at this romance thing." "I had a terrible teacher before," I teased. "Then I'll take the job," she said playfully. We both laughed, but there was truth under the humor. With her, I didn't feel like I was performing love. I was living it. The bell above the door chimed. A customer walked in, browsing through the poetry section. Sarah stood to help, but I stopped her with a look. "Go on," I said. "I'll wait." When she disappeared between the shelves, I opened my journal, the same one I used to fill with bitterness and regret. The pages were now lighter, freer. I wrote. "Today, love didn't hurt. It simply existed." Her voice floated back from across the room. "Writing again?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "But not the kind of writing I used to do." "What kind is that?" "The kind that doesn't bleed," I replied. She chuckled. "That sounds healthy." "It feels like breathing after years of holding my breath," I said. Sarah leaned on the counter, watching me write. "Do you ever miss your old life?" I thought for a moment. No. I miss the version of me who still believed love had to prove itself every day. But I'm glad he's gone. She nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe he had to leave so this you could show up." "Maybe," I said softly. She walked closer. "You know, you smile differently now." "How so?" "It's quieter," she said. "But real." I laughed. "Guess I'm living proof that quiet things can survive." The afternoon sun warmed the glass as customers came and went. When the shop emptied again, Sarah turned the sign to closed and poured 2 fresh cups of tea. "End of day ritual," she said, sitting down. "Cheers to another peaceful one." "Cheers," I echoed, clinking my cup against hers. For a while, we didn't speak. We just listened, to the ticking clock, the faint rustle of pages, the hum of the world outside. It was the kind of silence that once used to scare me. Now it felt sacred. Finally, she said, "Do you ever think you're too old for all this?" I smiled. "Someone once told me I was too old for love." "Someone who clearly didn't know you," she said. "Or maybe she did," I said quietly. "Maybe she just saw the wrong version of me." Sarah reached out, brushing her fingers against mine. "And now?" "Now I know being called too old for love was a blessing," I said. "It forced me to find the kind that lasts, the kind that doesn't need fireworks to be real." She squeezed my hand gently. "You found it, didn't you?" "I think I did," I said, smiling. And it feels young again. When I got home that evening, I stood in front of the mirror. The lines on my face were still there, deeper maybe, but they didn't bother me. They told stories of everything I'd survived. For years, I saw age as an ending. Now, it looked like the start of something gentler. I opened my journal one last time that night and wrote. Today I wasn't too old for love. I was just finally old enough to understand it. Then I closed the book, set down my pen, and let the quiet fill the room. It didn't feel empty anymore. I sat alone on the balcony that night, the city lights flickering below like scattered memories. The air was cool, calm, the kind that doesn't ask for anything. I took a slow breath, letting the silence settle. For the first time in years, I didn't feel empty. She really did break you once, I whispered to myself. But even saying it didn't sting anymore. The pain had become a story I could finally tell without shaking. Miller's words echoed in my head from weeks ago, "You don't owe anyone your suffering, man. Let it go." At the time, I thought he was just being kind. Now, I understood, forgiveness wasn't about her. It was about me. My phone buzzed on the table, another message from her. "I hope you're happy now." I stared at it for a long moment, then typed, "I am. I hope you find peace too." And just like that, I felt something lift, not dramatically, but gently, like untying a knot that had been strangling me for years. I leaned back in the chair and looked at the stars. "You know," I murmured, "you taught me more than you'll ever know." I remembered every fight, every silence, every tear I pretended not to cry. Back then, I thought love was endurance, staying even when it hurt. But love isn't about surviving someone, it's about growing with them. When it stops growing, it starts dying. I took another sip of tea and smiled faintly. "You taught me that love doesn't die when someone stops loving you," I said softly into the night. "It dies when you stop loving yourself. And that I'll never let happen again." I thought about Sarah, her laughter, her warmth, the way she looked at me like I was still capable of wonder. She didn't heal me, she reminded me I could heal myself. That difference meant everything. Life wasn't supposed to go the way I planned, and maybe that was the point. Sometimes the heartbreak that ends your world is the same one that teaches you how to build a new one. I looked at my reflection in the window. The lines on my face were proof that time had passed, but the light in my eyes, that was new. She said I was too old for romance, I whispered, smiling. Maybe she was right. I'm too old for the kind that hurts.